You are sitting on your couch, scrolling through your phone. The house is completely quiet, and suddenly you feel it. That heavy, unbroken, undeniable gaze. You look across the room, and there is your dog, sitting perfectly still, staring directly into your eyes. They aren't whining. They aren't pawing at your leg. They are just watching you, unblinking, for minutes on end. It can feel uncomfortable, even a little unnerving. Most owners assume their dog simply wants something, a walk, a treat, or a bathroom break. Or worse, if the dog is large, they assume the animal is silently challenging them. That intense posture triggers a deep ancestral discomfort in the human brain. We naturally do not like being stared at. Because we lack the vocabulary to understand canine body language, we project all of our human anxieties onto that silent, motionless stare. We assume it means they are feeling guilty about shredding a pillow, or we think they are just spaced out. A lot of old-school, deeply unqualified dog trainers will tell you this is a dangerous alpha challenge, a silent test of household dominance. But modern canine neuroscience tells a completely different story. That motionless stare, it isn't an aggressive challenge. It isn't a sign of low intelligence, and it isn't random weirdness. It is a targeted biological hijack of the human nervous system. Let's obliterate the alpha myth right now. Rooted in completely debunked 1970s captive wolf studies, thousands of owners still believe a staring dog is asserting dominance. Yes, in the wild, a direct, unblinking stare with a stiff, forward-leaning posture is a threat between wolves. It is an agonistic display. But domestic dogs are not wolves. Over thousands of years, dogs fundamentally repurposed interspecies eye contact. Modern ethologists, as published in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior, have proven that true dominance theory between domestic dogs and humans is a massive scientific fallacy. Your dog isn't trying to dominate you. When they stare at you, they are engaging in highly complex information-seeking behavior. What about the famous guilty stare? You walk into the kitchen, find the trash can overturned, and your dog stands perfectly still, staring at you with pinned ears. You assume they are feeling moral regret. They are not. Behavioral scientists have proven dogs lack the neurocognitive framework for retroactive moral guilt. That motionless, guilty stare is actually an evolutionary appeasement behavior. It is triggered entirely by your present-moment aggressive body language and harsh vocal tone. They are trying to de-escalate your anger. And when a dog just stares blankly at you across the room, they aren't spaced out. They are in a state of hypervigilance, waiting for signals that you are about to initiate communication. So, what is actually happening in their brains when they lock eyes with us from across the room? Researchers at Azabu University in Japan set up a clinical study to find out. They observed human-dog pairs interacting, specifically measuring the duration of their mutual gazing. Using urinary immunoassays before and after a 30-minute session, they measured levels of endogenous oxytocin. Oxytocin is the love hormone. It is the exact neurochemical responsible for human maternal bonding. The researchers wanted to see if the canine gaze had any actual physiological impact on the human body, or if it was entirely a one-sided behavioral quirk. The results published in the journal Science were staggering. Dogs that engaged in prolonged mutual gazing with their owners experienced a 130% increase in oxytocin. But the chemical rush didn't stop with the dogs. The human owners who locked eyes with their dogs experienced a 300% increase in their own oxytocin levels. This is a cross-species positive chemical feedback loop. And wolves, even when raised entirely by human hands from birth, do not do this. The researchers found wolves actively avoid eye contact and trigger zero oxytocin response in humans. The dog's stare is a uniquely evolved tool designed to alter your biology. To understand the brain mechanics behind this, researchers at Emory University put awake, unrestrained dogs into fMRI scanners. They flashed visual stimuli, images of human faces, dog faces, and everyday objects. The neurological data was irrefutable. When dogs viewed human faces, their brain's primary reward and anticipation center, the caudate nucleus, lit up immediately. The motionless stare is neurologically rewarding for them. It feels profoundly good on a chemical level. Looking at your face activates the exact same brain regions as winning the lottery does in a human being. The Emory fMRI study revealed something even more spectacular. Dogs possess a specific region in their temporal lobe dedicated strictly to processing human faces. This is analogous to the fusiform face area in our own human brains. Your dog isn't just looking at your face. Their brain has evolved specialized hardware solely to analyze your microexpressions. Because this isn't just psychology, it's structural neurobiology. A 2017 double-blind study from Eötvös Loránd University in Hungary pushed this science even further, using advanced remote eye tracking hardware and synthetic oxytocin. The Hungarian researchers discovered that administering exogenous oxytocin caused dogs to spend 40% longer focusing directly on the eye region of human faces. The hormone actively downregulates their autonomic nervous system. It forces their heart rate to drop. It physically lowers their physiological arousal, allowing them to remain completely motionless while they study your face. They are hypnotized by you. The calmer they become, the more intensely they can lock onto your eyes, waiting for the absolute slightest change in your emotional state. This behavior isn't a learned trick. You didn't train your dog to stare at you. It is a hardwired, genetically mapped adaptation resulting from thousands of years of convergent evolution. During domestication, dogs developed structural genetic variations, retrotransposons, that wild wolves simply do not have. The primary genetic driver of this human-directed motionless gazing lives on chromosome 6. Specifically, scientists have identified massive structural variations in the GTF2I and GTF2IRD1 genes. And this is where the exact biological story becomes incredibly profound for humans. In human beings, if those exact same genes are deleted from our DNA, it results in a congenital disorder known as Williams-Buren syndrome. People born with this syndrome exhibit extreme atypical hypersociability. They are overwhelmingly friendly, lack social fear, and maintain prolonged, intense eye contact with total strangers. In domestic dogs, the structural insertion in these precise genes actively drives their compulsion to stare motionlessly at you. It is a genetic hypersociability. Your dog stares at you because their DNA literally commands them to love you. How far back in human history does this genetic hijack go? Paleopathological archaeologists found the answer in Germany, at a 14,000-year-old burial site, the remains of the Bonn Oberkassel dog. Discovered buried alongside a 27-year-old woman and a 40-year-old man, this is the earliest undisputed evidence of dog domestication. But the bones told a tragic yet beautiful story. The puppy had suffered from a severe, ultimately fatal infection of the canine distemper virus. Dental analysis revealed something that permanently altered history. The puppy survived for weeks in a highly incapacitated state. It was completely helpless. It could not hunt. It could not forage. It survived strictly through intensive, round-the-clock human care. Ancient hunter-gatherers were feeding, cleaning, and watering a sick animal during the brutal conditions of the late Paleolithic era. This proves that by 14,000 years ago, dogs had already evolved the socio-cognitive behaviors, chiefly this oxytocin-inducing mutual gaze, powerful enough to trigger profound human empathy and maternal caregiving. They survived by hacking our maternal pathways with a single look. Because this motionless, human-directed stare is so deeply embedded in a healthy dog's genome and neurobiology, any sudden change is a massive clinical red flag. If the behavior suddenly stops, alters, or misdirects, it is never just your dog being stubborn or aloof. As a pet owner, you must pay absolute attention to the mechanics of their gaze. It is a direct diagnostic window into their central nervous system. When a dog stops initiating this genetically hardwired communication, they are silently screaming for medical help. The first hidden danger is canine cognitive dysfunction, commonly known as canine dementia. If your older dog stops staring at your face to initiate communication and instead begins staring motionlessly at walls, into corners, or into empty space, do not ignore it. This behavior, clinically termed stargazing, is a hallmark diagnostic symptom of CCD. The pathology is terrifying. It is driven by the progressive deposition of amyloid beta plaques in the cerebral cortex and hippocampus, perfectly mirroring human Alzheimer's disease. Studies show up to 68% of dogs aged 15 to 16 years develop CCD. Their loss of human-directed gaze indicates severe degradation of their prefrontal cortex. They are literally losing their social cognition. They aren't ignoring you. The neural bridge that allowed them to connect with you is chemically breaking down. The second hidden danger is biomechanical. Think about the physical act of staring. Sitting and looking up at a standing human requires significant upward extension of the cervical spine. If your dog suddenly stops sitting at your feet and staring up at you, owners often mistake it for a behavioral quirk or a sudden loss of affection. The reality is physical trauma. Intervertebral disc disease, or IVDD, particularly in the neck region, causes acute, blinding pain upon upward neck extension. Severe osteoarthritis can do exactly the same thing. The behavioral loss of the stare is actually a desperate, silent pain avoidance strategy. Looking at you physically hurts them, so they just stop doing it. The third critical danger is purely neurological. What if the stare transitions from an alert, tracking focus on your face into a vacant, unblinking fixation? A stare where the dog cannot be easily snapped out of it by calling their name or clapping your hands. This is a primary clinical indicator of complex partial seizures. Focal seizures, localized in the visual cortex or temporal lobe, present behaviorally as motionless staring, sometimes accompanied by lip smacking or snapping at invisible flies. It is not a behavioral quirk. When your dog sits motionless across the room, locking eyes with you, they're not challenging your authority. They're not plotting against you. They are executing a 14,000-year-old genetic imperative, a biological mechanism so structurally perfect and powerful that it literally alters the chemistry of both your brains simultaneously. They are flooding their system, and yours, with the exact same hormone responsible for human maternal bonding. It is a silent interspecies conversation built on millennia of mutual survival. They are studying the micro-expressions on your face, because to their specialized temporal lobes, you are the absolute center of the universe. Have you noticed your dog staring at you differently during specific times of the day? Tell me exactly what they do in the comments below and hit subscribe, because in the next video, we are breaking down why dogs lick their paws compulsively, and the neurological science behind it is even stranger than you'd expect.